Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Steve, and today I want to talk about how should society address criminal wrongdoing. There's many values and different approaches to this situation, but today I'd like to tell you about my personal approach, which I call the mixed approach. Before we get into that, let's talk about what a criminal punishment should entail. First, we want to seek retribution for our victims. Second, we want to deter further criminal acts. And third, and most importantly in my opinion, is we want to honor the criminal's rights. Criminals are still people, and many times throughout the semester I realized that a lot of times criminals today aren't given rights that they should be granted. So we got to make sure we do that. With that being said, let's jump right into the mixed approach. Basically, the overall theme of this approach is we want to go from a less harmful punishment to a more harmful or significant punishment or infliction of punishment on the criminal. We start with general deterrence, then we move on to restorative justice. After that, we go to electronic monitoring, and after that, we go to incapacitation. So with that being said, let's jump right into general deterrence, our first step. This is the most effective step in society because if we considered everyone criminals, nobody or very few people actually commit a crime. And it's because of general deterrence that this happens. Basically, this aims to prevent the crimes before they occur. And it's the idea or the threat of punishment that deters people from committing crimes. It's not the actual adjudication or infliction of the punishment. It's the prevention or the threat of the punishment. And as I said, most crimes fall into this category. But not everybody's deterred with these threats. So let's say someone commits a criminal act. What do we do now? Well, in that case, we're going to move on to step 2, which is restorative justice. And as we talked about in class, this seeks a win-win situation. Perfect example, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his I Have a Dream speech. I drew a picture of him right here. It's not very good, but here he is saying I have a dream. But the idea behind this is African Americans in the 1960s, they knew that they couldn't incapacitate an entire race of white people. So instead, through peaceful protests and peaceful conflict and persuasion, they aim to gain equality and rise to be equal with white people rather than drag white people down to be with them. And that's what I mean by win-win. It doesn't inflict any harm. It inflicts less, if any, harm on the criminal or the offending party. And it's also cheaper because it doesn't require any kind of physical form, whether it's technology or buildings, whatever. But let's say sometimes, we don't get enough retribution for our victims through this restorative justice method. Well, in that case, we're going to move on to step 3, which is electronic monitoring. Now, this is where we start to bring the physical aspect into this, because we have those ankle bands that are used as trackers to track our criminals. So the criminals have a freedom of privacy, but they're restricted on where they can go. Most of the times, they're only allowed in their own home, and if they want to go anywhere else, they got to let the parole officer know. So they have that privacy, they have that bit of movement, they're able to do certain things, recreational activities, sometimes work from home. But as I said, they're restricted. And this is adjudicated or administered through a court trial, which is why I drew a gavel up here. Also not a very good drawing, but I tried. So we sentenced them through a trial, through a professional legal court hearing, and that's how they were sentenced to the electronic monitoring or the ankle monitoring. But some criminals don't even, they're not even deterred through this. Sometimes they take the bands off, they don't listen to the restrictions. In that case, we've got to go to the 4th most broad and most significant form of punishment, incapacitation. Now, this form of punishment has been used for years. It's very broad on where it ranges, and it involves physically preventing the crime from occurring or incapacitating or inhibiting the criminal from committing further criminal acts. That's why I drew a guy in jail right here. He's very upset, very sad, because all of his freedoms and liberties have been just about stripped. But there's many forms of this punishment. Medieval times, we had the dungeons, which were these dark, cramped, confined corridors where people would have to sit and either rot and die or go criminally insane in. We had the stocks where people would stay outside, standing all day in the hot sun, being humiliated in front of all of society. That was involved in the corporal punishment. And we had hulks, which were these big ships that were full of disease and were not temperature controlled, and people lived in close quarters and were forced to work out in the heat all day. And as I said, this is a very broad form of punishment. It ranges all the way from jail time to even the death penalty. And also, this is sentenced through a court trial, just like electronic monitoring. This can be very brutal, as I said. Also, yeah, that's pretty much all I had to cover for that. But anyway, in conclusion, we're going from less harm to more harm. The 4 steps: general deterrence, restorative justice, electronic monitoring, and incapacitation. Overall, I think this strategy really focuses on the criminal's rights. We're not going to inflict any more harm on the criminal than we absolutely need to do. Because some criminals, all we need is the general deterrence, the common society, or sometimes restorative justice. If we even look at Bill Cosby's case, I'm pretty sure his loss of power is enough to physically deter him from committing any more crimes. However, the problem is we don't have that retribution, which is why it leads to incarceration in that case. So overall, yep, less to more harm. I think it's the most appropriate method to work with here. You may agree, you may not, but thank you for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you all in the next video.